Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins.
We will invoke bowel-wrenching fear into the dark hearts of our enemies. Hot rod rocket jocks of precision and strength, tear-assing across the cosmos, hunting for heaven.
This is The Long War. I'm Robbie B, and joining me tonight are my partners in crime, Kenny Boucher.
Yo, Doug.
Stephen Fore.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Mike Haspil.
Hey, everyone, what's up?
And returning to us from the deserts of Arizona, Jason Craze.
Hey, everybody, what's going on?
Not too much. It's a packed evening here on the Long War podcast. We got a lot to talk about. It turns out Games Workshop has had plenty to say, as you can tell by the title of this episode. Now, we all know 8th edition is coming in hot. Well, maybe not as hot as some people would like, but relatively hot. It's in the long trajectory to come.
So it's not lukewarm. It is definitely hot.
It's yeah, it's not scalding. It's not like it's not like McDonald's coffee hot yet.
Too soon, man.
Shots fired. I'm channeling my inner GW Facebook comments right now.
Wait, hold on. Is all the salt online about GW? Because I thought, like, in my news feeds, like when I poke my head around on my, I'm not gonna tell you where I am when I'm looking at Facebook, but like when I'm looking at Facebook on my phone, I thought for sure some new breaking, scientific discovery about the Dead Sea had come out here, because it was
Haspil knows
a lot of fucking salt.
I don't know. There's so many flavors. Why you choose to be so salty? No, I think just our normal public service announcement, like, hey, roll up your jump to conclusion mats. We don't have all the pictures. We don't know all the rules. We don't even know if some of the things that they've revealed to us are maybe, for lack of a better term, like an infographic, like on this whole to wound roll and stuff, So let's simmer it down. Let's all.
But Rob, I haven't gotten angry about anything in 45 minutes. I mean, give me something.
Well, let's talk about this week's new release.
Well, okay, so here's like a new release is GW is going to start selling heavy D6s. That's what that stat means. It's a new dice. It's made out of like a lead and tungsten mixture. So it's super heavy D6, and then you have to roll that one if you're rolling like a heavy weapon.
This makes me angry. Let me tell you why this makes me angry.
Please, I like to know.
As a gamer who might not be in the greatest of shape, I am operating at maximum weight capacity when I go into tournaments anyway. So I feel very offended by this, GW, that you would make a D6 heavier, physically heavier. Get out of here.
They're looking out for you, man. They're just trying to make you stronger.
Yeah. Hopefully we can illustrate the I want to make a word here. Ludocracy. Is that a word, Haspil? Can I use that?
Sure.
Look to the judging panel. It is confirmed.
Judges.
Ludocracy.
This is ludicrous.
Yeah, GW has to do something with all that extra pewter they have sitting around from all those Sisters of Battle
That they've been melted down because they're going to reissue them in plastic.
Yes.
Okay, first off, before any of this can happen, we have to start a petition to talk about how this heavy D6 needs to be called just big boned.
Yeah, that's right. You can't call it heavy D6.
Nah.
Full disclosure, I did steal that heavy D6 off of somebody on Facebook, so that's not original.
Not an original
counts.
bit.
No, I'm a joke thief. I'm the scourge of the comedy world.
Ooh, is it the Carlos Mencia of
That's right.
Yeah, did you give credit to that random Facebook utterance?
I didn't see who actually
Be careful.
said it,
He may start a
but
new page on Facebook dedicated to shitting on you now.
Yeah, he didn't watermark it, so
yeah, he has to get in line. Honestly.
Right? Yep, I feel you there. Queuing up. So this week's releases from Games Workshop are the 8th edition of Blood. Wait, no, it's just Blood Bowl. I tried it. I just couldn't pull it off.
Couldn't follow through with it.
Dang it. Come back to me. I can do better.
I feel like they missed an opportunity on their part because they could have hyped it like 8th edition is here, and then you click on it and it's like of Blood Bowl.
And all you had to do is put a couple of smiley face in the posts, and it's like, oh, come on, guys, that was good.
Yeah, give me my credit.
So it is. So 8th edition Blood Bowl is here.
Yeah, the 8th edition of Blood Bowl is here. So this week we've got the Goblin team, standard plastic for $35, and it looks like there is a some sort of Goblin kind of 3-pack, very similar to what we saw with like the Ogre and the Troll for Blood Bowl, but we haven't seen pictures of it yet, and that's going to be $15. Now, Forge World 2 also put out pictures of the Goblins with secret weapons, and one of them was holding that crazy looking chainsaw fist that was on the Rumor Engine post, just like last week's? I think it was last week. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you want to know what? I really commend Forge World for coming in high with keeping up with Blood Bowl, with everything else. It's really got me pumped for the new rules that I know Forge World and GW are working on for all their stuff for when 8th edition drops.
Can you describe to me what a chainsaw fist is? Because I did not see this picture, and I am highly interested in this device. Is it just a chain fist like 40K, or does it look?
Yeah, it's like a chain fist with a handle, like an underslung chain fist with like a little pistol grip.
So like a baton, but a chainsaw. Yes,
like the baton from Rogue One or from episode.
Or from real life, like cops have them.
Yeah, or like
that's a completely different thing. Don't you mix real life in my fantasy world?
That's called
out of here, PETA.
All I could envision was Army of Darkness. That's I thought that kind of chain fist.
I'm with it. I'm down for the chain saw baton. Like, does it have like an actual like pull crank on it? Like
I think so. I think there's an engine mechanism.
I'm with that.
And obviously, it only works because the goblins think it works.
Is that their thing too? Like orcs?
Actually, I'm not sure.
A lot of things don't work, even when I think they work around here.
It's so true. There's also Death Zone Season 2. So it looks like a new expansion book with a bunch of scenarios and such, like we saw with the first one, $32. Genzar, The Storm of Silence, hardback cover from the Black Library. Gav Thorpe, once again, penning that one there. It's the Phoenix Lord series. That looks to be all of the releases from the Games Workshop for this week. Now, on the rumor front, obviously we still don't know what's going on with Games Workshop as far as 8th edition coming out. But we do know a couple of things. We know that the White Dwarf will not be out in its air quotes normal time towards the end of the month, first of the month in June. We already know it will be out right around the 15th or whatever. A lot of people are speculating, well, that means it's going to come out on June 17th, or we'll get 8th edition. But it doesn't necessarily mean that either. You know, like there's a lot of vagaries out there still if you look at a lot of different things. And
Haspil, is that a word? Vagaries?
Vagaries or something like that. He's close. I'll give it to him.
Yes. Suck it, Trebek. Buckfata. So I think, you know, it's still really hard to kind of read the runes, because we saw traditionally, at least from my perspective, whatever the White Dwarf came out, it would only pretty much contain the next 2 weeks worth of releases. And then about halfway through the month, like clockwork, Games Workshop always seemed to put out a teaser video of some sort. And then that would kind of preview what would be out for the latter 2 weeks of the month. So now we're kind of getting the White Dwarf at that 2 week mark. So we kind of don't know what's happening in those first 2 weeks right there, right? We don't even know what's coming out in the last 2 weeks, because basically everything in the White Dwarf, the 40th anniversary birthday issue, was already out at that point. Like these goblins and stuff and this Blood Bowl stuff was not in the White Dwarf. So we're like in uncharted territory. Here be monsters. Like we don't know what's going on right now. And they're running a type shit. They're not even telling their. Did
you say they're running a type shit?
Yes.
That's some crazy type shit. But what is really crazy is Robbie B, as being the guru of all things 40K and GW, when was the last time that we ever had this type shit happen? That that someone else besides GW, because they're the ones who are putting out all the spoilers. Like, there is no photocopied in German of 8th edition rule books. There is no, like, I mean, I am really impressed that any news that we're getting is actually from the design team, you know, on social media with their stamp on it.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the deal. Like, traditionally we see leaks in like 3 different ways. We know they're what do you want to call it? Basically planned leaks or anonymous leaks to certain, whether they're forums or people posting on our forums in an unofficial, official capacity, or to podcasts, etc. We see that a lot. We see random pictures getting taken at the publisher of the White Dwarf. That happens a lot. Well, probably more than we realize. And then we have the direct stuff, which is Games Workshop themselves. And then I guess conversely, you know, there's a part B to that, and that's that the GW stores, the store managers leak things, et cetera, like that. And that's where we get a lot of the information here in the States from. It's the latter ones over in Europe. So cutting out and not telling the stores anything basically eliminates a lot of things here in America. Then cutting the print time of the White Dwarf down to pushing it back those 2 weeks would theoretically cut down the leaks at the publisher, right? So they're a little bit more predictable by the team in case it does happen. So obviously this is high interest, and I would expect to see some images coming out of the publishers. And we know we're having some publication issues here in the States. So I don't know if they pulled that service from the folks up in Long Island yet. I don't know the status of any of that. I've been meaning to call GW and get there, see if I could get through to customer service and find out about that. But at this time, we don't know. I didn't get my White Dwarf in the mail.
Rob, when you call customer service to try to pump for intel, do you do a fake voice?
No, I tell them. I identify myself. I'm like, hey, what can you tell me about this?
And when they say, what do you mean you? What do you say?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Like, you're like, hey, this is Rob Baer from Spikey Bits. Can I get the intel? Or do you say, hey, I'm just a guy. I want my White Dwarf.
No, I mean, if I have a customer service issue, I'll, you know, that's a personal thing, and I'll tell them about it. But like, if I'm asking in official capacity, I will identify that, hey, you know, I'm asking on the record. You know?
It'd be a lot cooler if you put on a fake voice.
Put on your Kenny voice.
Oh,
start acting as Kenny. Yo, dog.
Yo,
what kind of news you got for me?
Can I get a bump of that news? Just a hit.
Yeah. Why am I a drug addict in your?
Why aren't you a drug addict?
Why?
I don't know what to say. I feel like a stereotype, dude.
Okay.
I feel like a stereotype to you. I apologize.
Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah, but you're not really.
I did it to you. I said literally you couldn't open your own jars, and that'd be how I acted as you. So yeah, I'm a man. I deserved it. No worries.
At some point, I'll be a real boy, I swear. So there's just a lot of stuff we don't know at this point, and there's a lot of folks out there saying, "Hey, I know stuff. Look at me," and that's, well, we all see how that goes. It doesn't last very long.
Did you just describe the internet? Did you just summarize the internet in like one statement?
One statement.
Yo.
I know things. Look at me.
So before and we'll do that later, go down into what we actually know and our thoughts on some things. But man, how crazy is this also that GW is almost kind of like, they're like, hey, we don't want any pre-news in any other edition, but now we want to give it to you and we want to rile you up, get you thinking, making your own assumptions, maybe prepping you for it. And we're going to string this out for a little bit. I mean, I guess I like it. I don't know. My body's not really giving me one thing or another. It's just because how different GW is acting. I guess that's where I'm going with it.
I think it's smart because by the time the rules drop, any dramatic changes you won't be salty over because you've had a couple weeks to mull them over. You know what I mean? And some of them that you're like, man, this is going to the game's broken now. I need to burn my army. And then when the rules come out, you're like, oh, that's not even as bad as I thought it was because this one rule they didn't tell us about was missing from the rumors. You know what I mean? Which fixes whatever I thought was super broken. So I think they're doing a decent job. I think except that they're stretching it out a little bit too long.
Jason, go with me on this. In business, is it? Oh, it seems like it's always better. Like this is just like a declarative statement. I try not to make too many of them, but isn't it always better if you can control the narrative?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you don't want to have somebody outside of your sphere of influence controlling the narrative about your business if you can avoid it, right? I think that every good businessman would side on that and say that the problem is developing a narrative and being able to control it are two separate things, right? So you may have a way that you want to go to market. The public, especially in the eyes of GW or in the case of GW, the public can receive it and act in multiple unforeseen ways. I think by now, GW is at the point where they've been around long enough. They've seen this stuff happen. The salt is going to flow. People are going to be unhappy. At the end of the day, everybody's going to pretty much play, or the same sort of percentages are still going to keep the game, pick up, move into the new edition, do the things they want them to do. So I think they're in a little bit of the catbird seat from that perspective, so they can milk it a little bit longer. Like Haspil was saying, maybe they can ride this wave of uncertainty a little bit to their advantage. Like I said last week, I think that there's still a little bit that maybe they don't even know. I think that they may have rushed schedules. Maybe 8th wasn't supposed to drop as soon as they're dropping it, but business decisions with the new management and the new kind of upswing in sales that they've seen and good vibe in general that's been going on with Age of Sigmar, with the attention they're doing in the public eye with the Warhammer community stuff, with the stream, with all that, they're riding this wave. And I think that if there's any narrative going on that somebody's saying we need to capitalize now and move up the timeline on 8th, I would almost bet money that's what's happening from a business perspective. And if that's the case, then them writing this a little longer, leaking out information makes the public see it as if all of this is quote unquote done and we're just, printing and making books and finalizing and this and that, when hopefully that's the case, but it may not be. And it may actually be that they're going to ride this for a little longer, or they may surprise us and next week it drops. I think that they, like I said, they're in that catbird seat because they get to control it. Like you said, the narrative is all on them. They already know with it, whatever they're going to do, there's going to be people bitching and there's going to be people that are positive. And I think that there's just, my own personal opinion is that in the background, there's always a fear that you write it too long, that it becomes dull, because it becomes dull to bitch about this game that you love at some point. I don't know what that point is for every individual, but it does become something that people are just going to go do something else for a while. Sure. And you don't want to lose that kind of momentum, whether it's negative or positive. It's all momentum right now. And so I hope they come with it sooner than later. So.
Yeah, I was going to caveat to that too, is like, but also for everybody who are positively saying, oh, I can't wait, they will definitely lose okay, I'm kind of done waiting, it needs to happen now. But Jason, what do you think about, did maybe the design studio or the social media aspect for GW pulled the trigger on Adepticon and saying too much a little too early at Adepticon? And maybe the printers, everything up, that timeline, like the initial, was Adepticon planned the entire time to speak on the new edition, to go ahead and break it there? It wasn't that big a deal to do it at Adepticon this year versus, I guess, was it a knee slap decision to maybe break it 2 weeks early and then string this out,
I think it was planned. I don't think anybody, read the wrong sheet or brought the wrong booklet with them and stepped up the timeline. I think that if there's anything going on that isn't just standard business, hey, we got this thing, it's on a release schedule, here's the release schedule. I think it's more like what I'm saying, that they're pushing forward, and because they're pushing a timeline a little more aggressively than they had initially planned, that they are having to be more strategic about what they leak. They're going to have to use it as a sounding board. It's like, okay, this is what we released this week. Where are we at with this other stuff? How can we go? And all the time there's somebody in the background managing, like a spin doctor managing, like, okay, yeah, this seems to make it, this still tells the story like we got our shit together and stuff's going the way it's planned. And so no, I think that they meant to at Adepticon. I think they're meaning to do they're good at what they do, and I think they're meaning to do it every day that we see these new releases. I think that what's happening, and like I said, I don't know what I'd bet on it, but I bet that somewhere in the background there's a bunch of people sweating the details, trying to get loose ends tied up much quicker than they wanted to. And there's probably more people at GW uncomfortable about the process that's going on right now than any of us out here in the world waiting on 8th edition to drop in our lap so we can go put, toy soldiers on the table.
Yeah. But I feel like, did they show anything at Adepticon they didn't show at Gamma? I mean, they showed a lot of stuff at Gamma, which was just the week before.
Haspil, I kind of with Juice, I'm a little bit on this because I'm like, weeks matter, right? When you're talking about this type of social buzz, day to day, week to week, this shit matters. I feel like there was no reason to talk to us about it in,
except that they had just presented all that stuff at Gamma.
Which is also, I believe, a mistake.
They didn't. No, all the 8th edition, all the Death Card stuff was fresh at Adepticon.
Oh, okay.
Now let me throw some pictures in, and I know the people on the podcast won't be able to see this, but we can use our descriptors and paint a vivid narrative here. Let me find them. Well, I have some interesting Google pictures.
But yeah, if they're, while Rob's doing that, if they're doing a faction article on every faction in the game, which it seems like they're going to do, interspersed with, we're looking at mid-June. There's a lot of factions out there, and if they break down, we're looking at the first part of June, as I would say.
Yeah, I heard that. To quote an epic watcher of our show, I want to say Duke Z, he who controls the salt controls 40K.
Yeah, it's actually for 2 editions. Well, I would say 3 editions. Being salty has been a part of my hobby, I think. Like, I will never tire of complaining about something. It'll be like, oh, my Grey Knights are the greatest thing ever. Now everyone's playing Grey Knights. This is dumb.
Yeah, it's stupid. Dumb.
All right, so if you guys are looking at Discord, and I know Juice can't see this, so we're gonna have to do our best to explain it to him. I have the first picture in Discord is a 90-day snapshot of all of the Google searches containing the word Warhammer 40K 8th edition. And I think I put 40,000, 40,000. That is every search performed on Google, and you can see that. It's pretty much relatively all flatlined around 0, just a couple of peaks and valleys here and there over the past 90 days. And you see right around March, the end of March, it peaks up to about the middle. This is what I believe they call a line graph, maybe an area graph. I'm not a graphologist, but it peaks towards about the middle of the chart here. And then slowly over time, for about a month, it slopes down, and it's back down a little bit above where it was originally for 8th edition searches. And then obviously, boom, that one Saturday, it goes up towards about 3/4 of the way up the graph. Like, so everybody's talking about 8th edition doing searches, right? And it stays up. It peaks a couple times. Then it comes back down about halfway down, about to where the Adepticon level was. And then that's about a week out after the announcement. And then it peaks again, and it goes up towards its maximum apogee, or whatever you call it, Haspil knows. And then it troughs back down, and it's slowly receding 2 weeks later, and it's back down to the Adepticon levels. So like, we're kind of peaking here. We're peaking and we're coming back down. And we're peaking and we're coming back down when they have like a major announcement. Now it started to go back up a little bit with a Sunday. This is from Sunday when they were talking about chaos. So we don't know this week. I don't have 3 days.
So at no point is it actually fallen below the Adepticon release.
The Adepticon level. Now this is Google web traffic, basically. Searches, organic searches is I guess the keyword we're looking for here. Now the graph underneath it is a snapshot of all page views. That's each page that's loaded on Spikey Bits. It's an area chart, and pretty much you can see where it peaks. And that's the Adepticon peak, about 3/4 the way up the graph, and then slowly recedes down, very similar to the top web graphic for the Google searches. And then it peaks again on that Saturday, but it doesn't crest the Adepticon excitement. It's a little bit lower than the Adepticon excitement, and then slowly over the past 2 weeks, it's receded down to normal traffic levels. And then there's a slight spike at the very end, and that's when they drop the teaser about chaos.
So what the people are actually engaging on is different than what the searches are.
Yes, exactly. So it seems like you got two different snapshots here. Yes, there is interest in 8th edition, according to Google, and people are actively out there searching for these things about 8th edition. And when they actually get to a place that might contain, and this is just a snapshot from one site, obviously I don't have access to all these other sites out there. And when they actually get to, for instance, spikybits.com to check out what's popping, it seems like interest has come back at least to normal daily volumes.
And there is a wrench to throw into this, though.
What's that?
Analysis. Facebook. Because with Facebook, I'm only going to one site. Granted, Facebook is not really searchable, but I don't need to. I can just go to the Warhammer 40K page, and they are actually answering people. So that has become like your one-stop shop for a lot of people. They're not even going to the Warhammer community page unless they're clicking through the link. You know what I mean? A lot of folks are just going and engaging with their social media team directly in the Facebook comments. So I feel like that, because Google is not tracking that, you know what I mean? That doesn't show up. I'm not saying your methodology is flawed, but that is a really big section. That's, that we have no way of knowing how many people are engaging through Facebook and then just reading comments, instead of clicking through.
That's true. And, there's a couple of things. It's great that they're able to, kind of keep up with the, all of the, engagement and everything. And those are GW. Whereas, for instance, if you communicate with, say, a public company, like say you go to Walmart's page, you go to Wendy's page, you're not necessarily dealing with people that have anything to do with those companies on a daily basis. It's a customer service team that they farm out and promote, and they're literally paid to provide customer service, whereas Games Workshop is providing all of this in-house, and they have the advantage there that, they can go back and talk to the people and interact in that regard. And a lot of times the social media team is also the people that are going out and doing these events that we've seen in the past. So that is good and that is great. But remember too, that Facebook is a very dangerous double-edged sword, because it's an awesome tool and it keeps us all connected and it really allows us to get information and get down to the crux of things. But remember that Facebook literally wants to become the internet, and that is something to be afraid of. This is just a side topic. Like, Facebook doesn't create content. Facebook, everybody listening to this podcast right now, to my voice, creates more content than Facebook does. Think about that for a minute. So that's a dangerous thing.
You're reminding me of like the guy at the end of the bar who's like, the Federal Reserve is no more federal than Federal Express. And you're like, Jesus.
Yep.
He's like, Facebook literally wants behind our money. And he tears up a 20.
Let's go grab these guys and throw them in the Federal Reserve. I'm gonna lock them up in there.
Yeah,
I don't think he understands what the Federal Reserve is.
Yeah, no, not at all. But I mean, it's really cool that they do that. But then again, I'll also say what a lot of people I'll make the TV analogy. There's always another channel. You have 256 channels. You have 350 channels. You have Netflix, you have Hulu. There's always something else to watch, and people will go. They'll be like, okay, I got my fill here. All right, let me go over and see what this site's saying, or let me go over and see what this guy has to say.
Now they're doing all that on Facebook. They're not leaving Facebook.
They're doing a lot of it on Facebook, sure, but we're still seeing traffic. Come back to.
Yeah, I only go to 3 websites. I go to Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, that's a thing. That's a thing.
Yo, but let's plug. Let's plug a couple things real quick before we go into a commercial break, so we can talk because I know now we're leading people on, because I know they want to hear our opinions on these rumors, as humble as they are and opinionated and full of
lies
in some cases,
unintentional lies.
We reserve the right to quote Juice. We reserve the right to backpedal at any time. But hey, guys, you heard me just mention Twitch, the Long War Network. This is our live platform. This is the new heat. If you're someone listening to our podcast and you have not found time to get over to Twitch, don't make the same mistake I made and Rob made, where we had a sticky note on our computer that said Twitch ? For 2 years. before we pulled it down and actually figured out what Twitch is. I'm telling you, that was a mistake. Get over there. Live content. We got all these content creators like Jason Craze here on the show, Rob, myself, Keelan Prime, Ironheaded. We've got the Basement Collective. We've got a lot of things happening. And this summer, we've got more things happening. New, exciting schedule changes, new content, more than just painting, potentially even finally going into the food world. We got so many things, guys. It's definitely find us on Facebook, Long War Network on the communities page. It's the easiest way to stay connected, guys. All right, now that I've plugged that, here's the real shit that needs to get plugged. The legendary author of Graveyard Shift, Mike Haspil. This book is a near thing, right? This is about to happen.
Yeah, this drops July 18th. There's going to be some stuff starting in about 8 or 9 days. I'm still working on it, but there is like a Facebook group if you're interested in more information on the world and all that stuff called Umbra Operatives. So just do a search, and it is not an open group, but that's part of the whole mystery thing right now. And there's nothing on there right now, but in about 8 days it'll start. I'm trying to do this whole like ARG website tie-in, Twitter feeds, all that stuff that's going to ramp up towards the release. So it should like dovetail directly into the book. So if you are interested at all or anything, just start looking around, and stuff will start popping up. And some of it I will announce, and some of it I won't.
So we're going to talk about this book every show until it releases, until we even have it in our hands. And we can get some dramatic readings from the book with the legendary Mike Haspil. But to the people, before we go on a quick little break, just tell them what this book is about. Like, there's many people who've heard me say Graveyard Shift, this and that, and I don't read the back jacket of your book for you because I feel like I would do a shitty job.
Yeah. So in general, what it's about, it takes place in 2021. And it's in a world where essentially vampires have come out and are known to the world because there's a blood substitute. So there's parallels to True Blood, but honestly, when I wrote it, the True Blood had not aired yet, even though the Suki Stackhouse books were out. And it is about a police unit called the Nocturne Affairs Section that deals with vampires and shapeshifters. And somebody has started poisoning the blood substitute that vampires depend on. That is essentially where the book picks up on what's going on. And it's about two cops, a vampire partner and a guy who's masquerading as a human, but he really is a 4th dynasty pharaoh who is immortal. So essentially a mummy, but he looks normal and talks normal and all that stuff. And it's an urban fantasy story. So if you like that kind of story and everything, it's pretty good. Lots of action scenes. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of it. Honestly, it's really good. We're starting to get some reviews back because we sent out some advanced reader copies. And actually this was like a life goal for me like an achievement unlocked. Is I actually sent an advanced reader copy to Michael Stackpole, who helped really influence my writing life, and our very own Black Library's Graham McNeil. So I thought that was pretty cool. That was like an achievement unlocked for me. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, that's badass, dude.
Are you allowed to talk about Audible yet?
I can talk about Audible. I don't know when. I don't think it has started being recorded yet. But Michael Kramer, the guy who did the whole Wheel of Time series, and he's done
Stormlight Archive series, Mistborn series. He's the most prolific, in my opinion, voice actor on the Audible scene.
Yeah, so we got Michael Kramer, and I basically threw his name out there as like a complete long shot. I was just like, Michael Kramer, whatever. We'll never get him. And then it came back. It's him. He's going to be doing the readings, so that's going to be fantastic. And should drop the same day as the book. But I don't know that for a fact because I don't think it has actually gone into production yet.
Oh my God, I'm excited beyond all belief.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
How sick is that, Has? Was like all the work, like you send us messages and stuff. It's like, man, you're just like killing the game, killing yourself by making sure all this stuff is done. And like T-minus 2 weeks, like the voice narrator of your book that you wanted or whatever is going to be working his ass off to have that done at the same amount of time. Like, how cool is that? Like, you guys are literally in separate parts of the world, but working on the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's really, really crazy.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, guys, and then we're going to talk about these, not even rumors at this point, these facts.
Dear veterans, quickly, make your way to thelongwar.net and find out how to reap your hard-earned spoils of this long war. For our allies at secretweaponsminiatures.com have rewarded us all with an extra 10% discount on all Secret Weapon Miniatures merchandise. So stock up, dear veterans, and enjoy.
elricshobbies.com is your exclusive portal to upgrading your hobby. When you sign up at thelongwar.net, you gain an instant promotional discount good for 10% off at Elric's Hobbies. elricshobbies.com. And we're back. Rob, what you got for us?
Show me what you got. So, I guess, well, I don't want to get too bogged down in this one, but let's talk about the previews they did. And this is where it gets a little sticky. Is they previewed how wound rolls will work on Monday. I want to say it was Monday with the infantry stuff. And they put out this really nice chart. It might be more of an infographic than actually what we'll see in the rules. But Juice brought up a good point in the webcast that, perhaps with the way Age of Sigmar's rules are so small and compact and concise, that the chart may actually be what is in the rule book, or this could be an infographic just to give us a teaser of what is in the rule book. Either way, everybody's kind of taken it and gone wild and created their own multiplication charts of all this stuff, and you've probably seen them out there already.
Charts gone wild.
It's charts gone wild. Show me what you got.
Yeah. Go ahead, Robbie B. Real quick, before you tell us the info on the chart, how sick would this be? We know that how sick would this be that in the new 8th edition, we don't see charts? How amazing would that be?
I'm okay with that.
Right? Like, I'm not saying like I have something against charts, right? But when in doubt, GW's motto is make a chart of it.
Mm-hmm.
Give us a chart. And this has been a thing for years. Oh, go to page so and so, look at the chart. So how fresh would it be? Like, it just, the nostalgia of GW and charts and everything else is just, when we're playing this game for as long as we have, we just assume that the next edition will follow these guidelines, the next edition. And we are literally from start to finish we're seeing a brand new game.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's just like Kenny said, this is the first new edition since 3rd edition.
The first new edition in 5 editions. Like we said before, we've said it several times. It's not a new edition if you can play your old codex in it. It's the same edition with a couple of tweaks. And this is finally a new edition. It's coming. The removal of charts, we saw that coming, Age of Sigmar style. Take it as you will. Like, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? We won't know yet, but I think largely it's going to be a positive, because if it's anything like Age of Sigmar, the rate of play is going to be improved. All the rules on your war scrolls is such a clutch thing. It's so much easier, so much faster. Juice and I, we've just learned of some of these rules earlier tonight in the webcast. So now we made some mistakes when talking about them, some over opinions, but like this time, I feel like round 2, we're going to do a little bit better job.
All right. So first off, let's just run down this wound chart here real quick. So if the strength of a weapon is twice or more of the toughness, to the roll required to wound it is a 2-up. So we've seen that before. I think that's reasonable. I think everybody can agree. Okay, got it. Is the strength greater than the toughness? Okay, not twice, but greater. 3+ to wound. Also something we've seen for the most part in the past. Is the strength equal to the toughness? 4 up to wound. Obviously, we're all on board with that one. But I think where a lot of people are getting it twisted, and there's some wonkiness coming up, is the next 2. Is the strength lower than the toughness? Then it's a 5 up to wound. Is the strength half or less than the toughness? 6 up to wound.
That's a lot easier to understand than I thought it was. And like, it's And the thing is, this isn't a chart. This is rules. This is a rule. This is rules.
Mhm.
A chart that was like literally my multiplication table where I was like 4, 3 connected in the middle with my fingers. Oh, I need this is, I love it. I think it's very simple. It's very, because it's now a new player doesn't have to think about anything. It's just like, strength 6 on the scatter laser. What's your toughness? 4. Cool. Not double, then it's 3.
Yeah.
So perpetually, you wound across the boards on a 3 until someone's toughness 6, which is pretty rare.
Yeah. So, I mean, a couple things. Like, there is a positive, right? So I went completely why I don't like this aspect. I don't like this chart or these rule sets, right? As of right now, I don't like the fact that my strength 7 weapon needs a 3 to wound if you're toughness 4. It pisses me off. Like, I believe that I should be able to punch through a little bit. Now, I know, again, I used my plasma gun as a reference. Like, a specialty weapon, this and this is not going to be able to, like, needing to wound on a 3. Like, we've given power to a strength 3 weapon to wound, has the potential to wound anything. We have now taken away the potential of a strength 7 weapon wounding a toughness 4 model as it did in previous editions. So there's some negatives in my mind with this, right? But what I do like is what Kenny alluded to earlier was like, well, there's Wrens, there's this and this, but there's no ambiguity with it. There is no like, this is a rule, this is not a rule. You can do this, you cannot do this. So I'm with it. Like, as long as GW keeps going with this, I'm down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a different game. It's a new edition. Like, this is step 1 in having an actual new edition. It actually makes the strength profiles a little bit more dynamic. Before, you're just saying, like, why we even, until you're interacting with armor, like strength 6 to 10 is the same strength, basically.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, I knew one thing. Sorry, Ken. I knew what I want to hit on was the Eldar aspect, right? So what we're seeing now is the Eldar can put out the most strength 6 shooting that I've seen, right? It's unreal. And so 9 times out of 10, that's wounding stuff on Marines, everybody else on 2s. Now they get their normal save and everything, but people really don't care when you're doing that mass amount of wounds. So what they are doing is leveling the playing field a little bit. And you guys, just so you know, you'll be listening to us, and we're going to use Eldar as an example. Right, I feel like that is the boogeyman in the room.
Eldar is going to be. Eldar has the most amount of guns, the most volume of fire, the fastest,
the highest toughness models that get the most gameplay.
Every other thing that's hard about 40K, that's a hard combo, is basically a direct answer to the Eldar. So when talking about Death Stars, when talking about Gladius, talking about all these other really hard to fight against armies. Those came about because Eldar. So that's why we're always going to use it as our benchmark, as our touchstone on relating these new wound charts, wound profiles, wound rules.
Yeah. And Kenny made the direct correlation of, if a jet bike changes nothing, they decide that its speed is the same, range, weapons are the same, close combat, everything is the same. Guess what? Something is different now. Your Space Marine is only getting wounded on 3-ups. That's a massive blow. You know what I mean? So under that premise, all right, I concede. I do like this chart.
So strength is equal is the only time you roll a 4.
Yeah, strength is equal.
Yes,
is the only time.
So that's 100% less wounds.
What's cool about this?
Come to find out, it's 200% less wounds. Oh, no, you're right, 100.
I think it's 100.
Yeah,
I think it's the one time I had math better than you.
What I like about this this infographic, or maybe this is the actual rules itself, is the way they present it. The way I read it to you is strength twice or more of the toughness. D6 roll required is 2. It goes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's actually in order, easy to memorize as well. So I kind of like how it's presented.
Yeah, I've already memorized it. Like, anyone who can't memorize this quickly is not a veteran gamer.
Well, yeah, that too. But remember too that a lot of people don't understand that the weapon skill, and the ballistic skill thing was based off of 7 at first either. And then you're like,
but with the weird kind of rules, it's based off a difference of 7, unless you rolled a 1, but you're a ballistic skill 6, then you could re-roll. It was like, oh, come on.
Yeah, it was super weird.
Super weird.
All right. So that's all the time I want to spend on that particular update there. Let's talk about something that's I'm sure near and dear to my heart, and we have a lot of stuff to say, is here's the big thing. Characters cannot join units anymore. The age of add prefix here, Death Stars, are over.
Is that literally what they wrote?
That's literally what they wrote.
GW wrote that.
GW wrote that.
Yeah, I'm telling you, they're ballsy right now. They are.
They're coming in hot.
They are coming in hot.
I had a lot to say
love
about
it.
it.
No more soft golf clap. I'm sorry. Like GW, standing ovation from me. Way to grab your balls and just say, all right, guys, enough with the jabs. Here, these are for you.
We if you want to see a pretty good monologue on the subject, definitely go back to Monday's Twitch stream on Spikey Bits TV and the VOD. You talked about it on Monday. Pretty.
Oh, were you listening to that?
Oh yeah, I was in there. Like,
very poignant about what I had to say.
Rob broke him off. So if you want to hear that amazing monologue, definitely check it out on Twitch VOD. It's up there right now.
Well, let me read you my strongly worded note real quick.
All right, please.
This was on our post on Monday. Games Workshop, if you're listening. While we appreciate your return to social media and organized play overall, please recognize that add prefix stars were created as a direct result of your poor rules writing in 6th and 7th edition that allowed shooting armies like Tau and Eldar to dominate all realms and forms of play. Speaking of formats of play, because of your pullout of organized play, the community fractured into a ton of tiny fiefdoms of formats, which in turn created even new add prefix stars to give players a chance against those same Tau and Eldar armies that seemed to dominate any tournament format they were put into like an invasive species would in nature. Recognize real, Games Workshop. If add prefix stars are such a hot button issue, please understand that you alone facilitated the conditions that created these armies over the last few years in our hobby. That being said, we welcome your return, but please let's stop with the live and written add prefix star shaming and all agree that there will always be ways to break your game no matter how many playtest hours you throw at it. It is our belief that while continued tweaks and updates are necessary to nurture and grow any game out there, not just in tabletop wargaming. So please continue to communicate with the community and address the issues and follow through with your mention of a yearly General's Handbook type update for the game, or make changes sooner if necessitated. That was what I had to say.
Yeah, I feel I'll be the advocate for GW. I feel like they're still definitely salty about Death Stars because they didn't envision that when they conceived the game, but I feel like they are being very proactive for, way more proactive than we've seen certainly since 5th edition in trying to fix all that. And we've seen it in Age of Sigmar, when they came out with the new stuff, a lot of the formations are gone. They're no longer available because they were straight up kind of broken. So I feel like
fixing things.
Yeah, I feel like they're fixing things, and yeah, they should probably take some knocks for 6th and 7th. I would like to see
a little ownership there, because the only reason that Rob wrote that was because they came in hot with that title.
They came in hot with that title, and they're live in their Q&A. You could tell, Andy was visibly like upset at that term. Like he was like visibly like that was a poker tell the way he was acting. And I was like, look at this guy. Like it's on us. It's not on us, bro. Like, don't shame us. And don't get me wrong. Like,
yeah, let me give you guys a history on Death Stars. The first major Death Star in the modern era was the Not Bikers in 5th edition.
Yep.
And so to break down, so this has been happening for a while, and to break it down, Rob's dissertation, he said, your poor rules writing, the only reason the Knob Star worked was because you had a line in your rules where it said you remove whole casualties from the unit, except if models have different war gear, then you have to use complex wound allocation. So then you have the right to put the wound anywhere you want because they're all different people. So because of this insane rule, and you giving us a unit like Knob Bikers, where they literally, you can have a unit of 10 guys all on bike. So we're all identical on paper. Then you can give the entire unit cyborg body armor. We're still all identical on paper. Now, Knob 1, Combi Flamer Power Fist. Knob 2, just a Power Fist. Knob 3, a Power Fist with a boss pole. Knob 4, he has a like Grot Oiler or some random piece of
the ammo grunt.
The ammo rant.
Ammo grunt.
And a power fist. This guy had the wall banner and a Power Fist. This guy was the doc, the medic. Like literally, you
one
gave
has
us
a
that.
big chopper, one has
You gave us that, and then everything from then on in 5th edition, because of that poor writing that you decided you were never going to FAQ. That gave us a new template in the back of our minds, a frame of reference in which that we could draw upon at a moment's notice. And then when you gave us 6th and then 7th edition, that said essentially that casualties are always removed from the firing arc. Whole casualties always have to be removed. Cool. So you thought you'd fixed it, but then you gave us this insane rule called Lookout, sir. This insane rule. Now you did FAQ
right off the bat. They did FAQ it.
You FAQ'd it to saying not a model anywhere in the unit, but it has to be the closest within 6. And you also fixed a bunch of model units that were all characters. So you did do your best there. Thought it was problem solved. Then for over a year, it wasn't problem solved, because all day I could put 1 billion guys in the unit that could look out, start a 2 up back to each other, fill the unit out with a bunch of ablative wounds, and then you shoot me, some wounds are taken, I'll shuffle wounds around, look out, sir. Then once I move the unit, I can just place new models closest to the firing arcs and start it all over again. That's no second powers, nothing. That's just fundamentals. Like, for sure. I mean, I just want to give GW a brief history, if I can, in Death Stars. Like, come on, guys. We are gamers, and gamers by nature. Our primary goal when being competitive is to remove the challenge from the game.
Yeah,
like that's the end result.
Absolutely. And to be honest, I laugh at a comment like this, and it makes me chuckle even more that Robbie B, because I didn't watch this, you say that he was kind of perturbed at the notion of a Death Star, and is like, I think it's silly that no one saw Death Stars in your realm. In your 40K, you didn't see Death Stars. I think you're silly and not as 40K intelligent. You know what I mean? Like, this is just facts. Like, don't get mad when you create a rule set that, a bunch of ICs can put into a unit. That's ridiculous. Yep. Maybe, maybe he wasn't, maybe he didn't lose his poker face. Maybe he just had bubble gut, or something like that. So it's not so bad.
It was a similar expression. It could have been.
Yeah, so like, I'm not trying to throw my man under the bus, but it's kind of sad that if you're going to bash about, like, I mean, because anything can be a Death Star, like it's part of 40K. I'm at a loss if you're thinking that it's not like a 30. It's been part of a 30-man IG squad with a bunch of commissars thrown in and sergeants with power axes that have a couple psych abilities. That's a Death Star. That is a large unit, a mob unit with a bunch of things inside of it that causes a bunch of death. Like, I'm just trying to figure out, like, don't get salty with us.
No. And I was,
well, here's another reason why he might just not like the term, because when you say Death Star, that is tied to a very powerful IP, like extremely powerful, which is why in that article, they didn't say Death Star. They said insert prefix here, stars.
Ooh. What, Haspil? I like that. I really like that concept. Absolutely.
And I could see that if I hadn't watched the video and seen his facial expression live. That's literally what I saw in my mind when I read this article.
Gotcha.
Or from Games Workshop.
Well, either way, not to kind of, I guess, drag that topic out too much.
Yeah, I mean,
because there's a lot of cool rules that we can talk about. You know what I mean? But either way.
So comment real quick. So independent characters don't exist. Characters can't join units. How do you keep them alive, Rob?
Thank you. Let's get back on track. Kenny, thanks for bringing us back in. And so, to counter the fact that these characters cannot join units and hide from enemy fire, there is a rule in the shooting phase, which they don't name, that means you can't target a character unless they are the closest enemy model. So, This represents a difficulty in picking out individuals amidst the maelstrom of battle and applies to characters with a wound characteristic of 10 or less. And they also go on to say, including things that previously might not have benefited from any protection. So Guilliman has 9 wounds, which we've already seen there. So that definitely applies to him. But then they say something about really big heroes like Magnus the Red will still need to brave enemy fire, but with, in his case, over a dozen wounds and a respectable and vulnerable save, he will hold his own just fine.
Yeah, I love this concept, right? So this is GW, again, fixing rules, or I'm sorry. This is GW, their attempt to fix part of what was wrong with people complaining, what's wrong with 5th edition, 7th edition, Eldar, Death Stars, right? This is one of the ways to fix it. I love it. I think it's a good idea. I'm with that, right? I think that this will keep, you can just as easily keep a sanguinary priest alive who only has 2 wounds, or however many they're going to have in the new edition, or somebody as monstrous as Drago, right? And they're going to be running, they're not going to be solo models by themselves. You are going to want to move them. They're obviously not in a unit, but you're going to want to move them in, unit fashion towards a certain location to do all your killing. I think this rule is fine. I think it's cool, and I'm excited about it.
No, I think all of these are great rules. On most of the rules I'm reading, I'm super happy with everything so far, and I can't wait to keep getting each one of these little.
So Rob, so you can target a character if he's got more than 10 wounds. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that's what he's saying, because maybe at that point you become monstrous creature status.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say people like Swarm Lord, Magnus. I'm sure Hive Tyrants, even though they're characters but not independent characters. Yeah,
so if you're big, shoot the big ones is bad.
Yeah, and I guess, as of right now, Guilliman is the largest of all independent characters that, girth wise, I guess. And if he doesn't have more than 10 wounds, then we've really got to stretch to like the only next biggest people are like Swarm Lord, or something like that.
Yeah, I could see that. Another cool rule that they previewed is the heroic intervention rule, which basically says the characters near combat can now pile in an attack if the enemy comes close enough and they themselves were not charged. So it gives you that benefit to protecting them with dudes in front of them, but also allowing them to jump into the fray, because they wouldn't obviously let the ground pounders or the grunts have all the fun, right? So
this is if they use the 3-inch range of this rule. This is ported over directly from Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, if they go with that.
Yeah, and I like it. I like that aspect of Age of Sigmar. I truly believe that if you're close enough, if your brothers are in a fist fight, in a battle, and I am 3 inches away from you or 15 feet away from you, I'm going to help you. You have now brought the fight close enough to me that I can engage you. So I like this as well.
No, I think that'll be a good one. And then today's rules that they previewed were basically round 2 of weapon rules. So we've got twin link weapons. Now, instead of rerolling to hit if you miss, they now get double the number of shots. Which I know when I first started playing and I saw twin link class cannon, I immediately rolled 2 dice, and they're like, "No, that's not how it works." So that's kind of cool to see.
Wait, you mean that the gun with 2 barrels doesn't shoot the second shot until they wait to see if their first shot missed? Yes. But if their first shot hit, they never even pull the trigger on the second shot. That's basically twin link before now.
That was one of the most frustrating, try to figure it out in my head things. I was like, wait a minute, twin link heavy bolter should shoot twice as much, right? No. Not even a thing. So this one's great. Even if just for clarification, this was great, but I think this one plays out well on the table too.
I swear this is what I've wanted. This is the delineation between a guy walking around, a Devastator walking around with a heavy bolter or las cannon, or the las cannon that is on your Land Raider. I don't believe that the weapon platform on a Land Raider just deserves to get to roll his dice twice. Like, give me my 2 fucking shots. Give me my high ceiling.
Yep. No, I agree. That was definitely a thing, and I think most new players probably made that same mistake I did too. So, and I've seen it over and over. So I completely understand. I think this is a good one. And then they give
me my 8 assault cannon shots.
Ugh, so good.
For the love of God, give me that.
For the love of everything that is holy. Are you kidding me? Like, now my blood angels, matter of fact, somebody in the webcast tonight was like, oh, I think my blood angels, because I went off saying, like, I truly believe, like, it's crazy how Kenny's like, yo, with all these new rule sets and everything in the 8th edition, like, my chaos is going to get really good. And simultaneously, I'm like, I can't wait. Nids are going to be amazing. Orc's going to be good. Haspil's over there all within a breath of each other. We're all saying it, and Haspil's like, yo, Grey Knights are going to be awesome. Like, what magic is happening that we all believe that our armies, because all our stuff is going to get good. Somebody's like, well, I don't know about blood angels. Are you kidding me? I don't know what kind of blood angels you like to play, but you can have 5, 6, 7 fast assault cannon, Razorbacks hauling ass, shooting 8 shots each.
Yeah, and they're saying heavy weapon is just -1 to your hit modifier. So that means that whatever your maximum movement speed of a vehicle is, you can move it, and you're just shooting your 8 shots, hitting on 4s instead of 3s. Right now, it's hit on 6s.
But I was just thinking about this too. We don't know what other abilities are out there, like powers or like mechanicals and stuff. That what happens when you go, hey, this canical makes everybody I use it on twin linked or twinned, as they call it now. You just maximize firepower. Like, it'll become situational. I'm sure it'll be like a once per game only, and you'll have to just it'll be awesome. It's just like instant tide turner.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff you're definitely going to have to watch out for. The
rule set definitely breeds more engagement, more models being removed, more things happening on both sides. And that's going to play into the rate of play that they've already promised us that a 1,500 point game takes 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe it's because straight up, I mean, things are happening, things are dying. When you're saying I'm going to shoot these 4 las cannons at this vehicle, it's gone. There's no amount of cover saves you're going to make. There's no amount of hull points that you're going to have left. It's like literally -3 rending, 46 damage. Like, it's gone.
Yeah. Like the only thing I would like to see with vehicles, and of course we don't know if this is not the case or is the case. I would like to see some kind of armor modifier for different facings, so that, like, if you're firing at the front of a Lehman Russ, it gets its full armor save. If you're firing at the rear, you get an auto -2 rend or something.
50-50. Because when we talked about this, when we sort of did some playtesting for GW back in the day, but they didn't want to acknowledge that. When we were doing all these vehicles should have toughness battle reports and doing them on the podcast, that was one of the things that we pitched, that a vehicle can still be a vehicle with toughness if you say that it's toughness blah on the front armor, toughness blah on the rear armor. It's the same, literally. But I can see them for the rate of play removing it, because what's the point of contention that you often have in games? Am I in the side arc?
Right.
I don't think you are, but I think I am. Boom.
Yeah, you just get rid of it and simplify it.
Yep, one value to rule them all. I like that. So then
is the rumor about bases on vehicles real though? Like bases on rhinos and stuff?
No. I mean, that was a picture from the what was it? It was a
Warhammer like grand tournament that a guy did that because he thought it looked cooler.
But remember,
if that was real, I could have seen arcs come back.
Yeah, stuff like that was they put some stuff in their April Fool's video there, and then of course they're like plastic Thunderhawk, and then there was rumors that the Thunderhawk was coming back, and then it was like it's resin. So now we know everything in that video was probably BS anyway,
except the new Deep Strike rules.
Yeah, those are definitely coming back for sure. Look for those soon. So they previewed the weapon profile for the twin heavy bolter. So 36-inch range, heavy 6, obviously doubling its normal shots that we're used to. Strength 5. Oh, what did you guys want to do this where you predicted it? Like the AP and the damage?
I mean, we can. It's a little lackluster now because we
were close. We were close. -1 rend, and we thought it would be 2 damage because we want it to be as cool as it is in all the video games.
If a heavy bolter actually wounds me, it's going to do 2 damage, 2 points worth of damage to my ass. Okay.
Yeah, to my ass for sure.
For sure. -1, all up in that ass. So the combi weapons was the second part.
But real quick, it's not 2 damage, it's 1 damage, right?
Yeah, it's just 1 damage.
Okay, so -1 rand, 1 damage, but 6 shots stick.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, it's legit. Because then, when you start talking Land Raiders and such, it can get pretty bananas when you're thinking the Crusader. All right. So combi weapons was another thing. Normally in the current edition or most of the past editions, when you use the combi part, the special weapon, assault weapon part, it goes away. Well, now in the new edition, you can shoot both versions of the weapon at the same time, but with a -1 to hit on that. However, you can always shoot the specialist part, the assault weapon. And furthermore, you can just choose to shoot one of the two with no modifier whatsoever.
No, Rob, I'm pretty sure you read that wrong. I'm sorry, dog. Because you said out loud, you said that my combi weapon, I can shoot the bolter and the plasma at the same time.
Yeah, but you're just -1 to hit.
But it's a higher ceiling, higher average damage across the board.
Wait a second. So you were reading correctly. You're telling me all combi weapons now, I can pull the trigger. When I pull the trigger, both barrels fire.
Well, actually, there's 2 different triggers. There's a trigger on the front grab and there's a trigger on the back.
Okay, but more importantly, your sergeant with a combi grab doesn't just shoot the grab once. He gets to shoot it the rest of the game.
I think that's the biggest thing, because all through GW history with combi weapons, it was never really, it was a maybe if I remember to use it, or maybe if I built this one tactical situation into a thing in my list that I could use it, but it never felt like it had impact to me. I think this allows you to now build that weapon in on the guys you need it, and it can be a constant tactical threat or a piece in your back pocket to use in those oh crap situations and such. Because I know they got rid of templates, and I don't feel good about that. I know you guys some like it, but the combi flamers I thought were always a great idea, except
because it always hit.
Yeah, but except you'd use it the once, and then you'd find out you really should have waited because you really need it now.
Yeah, it also never killed anything, so it didn't really.
That's true too.
Yeah, but I mean, I am all about ready to play, because where we're at right now in 40K is that in match play, and even in Beats Lab play, like in your basement. Like I said, me and Juice at our level of 40K that we play at, and even when we mind meld and play with each other, where we don't even have to say what we're doing anymore because we've been playing so many years together and many years in period, it's 4 hours for us to play an 1850 game if we're going to play all 5 turns out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
4 hours. And major events and in match play, you don't got 19 hours to play 40K today. They're doing 2.5 hour rounds. 2.5 hour rounds at 1850 is to get 2 turns that you play, and then 1 negotiation turn, maybe 2 negotiation turns. And that's 2 turns where you really don't do anything. If you and your opponent are cool and you just kind of like talk it out and kind of just come to a understanding here. And that only works in like the battle point tournaments, because in the win-loss tournament, most people are like, yo, you got 5 minutes, I got 5 minutes. And that's so you play one last turn 3 for 5 minutes. So like that's not actually 40K. So the number one thing that needs to happen is rate of play needs to be improved. And I am willing to sacrifice the coolness of the narrative that is the templates, which I do find to be a very amazing, storytelling device in the game. I'm willing to sacrifice that if I can get my goddamn 5 turns in.
Yeah, I would like to open up the floor, if it's okay at this time, to talk about a potential major hindrance to that aspect that GW has put out. We don't know if it's going to stand or not, but we were under the impression, we talked about during the webcast, that models in the unit shoot weapon profiles together. So all bolters are shot together. If someone in the unit has a missile launcher or a crack grenade or something like that, those could be shot at different targets. But since then, we have found out that GW did respond on Facebook saying, no, I think the gentleman's name was Ian. Every model in your unit can engage a different person with their ranged weapon. So that is the epitome of what we can call slowing the game down. If you're like, well, I have 10 guys and my 10 bolters, blah, 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 right? That sounds nice and polite. And you're like, oh, what is actual 10 bolters going to do? What is this and this? What I don't like is that all of a sudden now we drop 4 drop pods in where we have 40, stern guard that all have combi weapons. Now, and we all know how slow drop pod armies are, right? That's just facts. You're right. You guys don't interact in the deployment phase. Mm-hmm. So that's really quick. But guess what you do? You make that up on turn 1 and you still have a turn. And the whole time you're like, I want to put my drop pod here. No. I'm going to put my drop pod here. And then it's going and going. And then now you have strung your models out. Now we've entered into it's basically a psychic phase. Because you are now psyching yourself up to, I need 3 of my 10 plasma, combi plasmas and bolters to shoot and kill this one target that I want to do. And then, well, I'll just throw a 4th one in there. No. I'll go back to 3. And then these 3 in the center, because I get out 6 inches, these 3 in the center are going to shoot this rhino directly in front of me. And then we go back down the same thing. No, screw it. I'm just going to add them all together. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't like the fact that they left it so open-ended. Again, via the internet, if, GW's response was, tell me a situation where 20 of your Chaos Space Marine cultists are going to shoot at 20 different targets. That's cute. But that's not actuality. What a surgical general is going to do is going to create a list that has 9 broadsides. And each broadside is going to shoot a different thing. And then they're going to... Or
insert whatever, because we don't know what's going to come out, but we're gamers. Mm-hmm. Like I said, yes. The goal of a gamer is to eliminate the chance from the game and use the rules and parameters available to us to figure it out. So people are going to figure out the best way to use this rule. But I do think that while this rule, because the point we're trying to make is this is a slowdown rule. There's no circumstance where this doesn't slow the game down. Because even if it doesn't have a big impact on the game, if it happens once or twice a game, that's slower than not having that rule, period. But if every other element of the game is faster, the game is still faster. So I do think that GW, I didn't like GW's response. I felt like they could have just said, don't worry, the game is so fast, you're not even going to notice. I feel like they should have just said that, because that's how I'm feeling about it.
Agreed. Again, I think the snarky comebacks while being kind of cool and fresh, at some point in time you just get to be ridiculous. And when I read that one, I thought, well, that's kind of ridiculous, because number one, you guys have proven time and time again, meaning GW, that they can assume all they want about how their game is going to be played. They actually have no idea how their game is played.
They have been wrong 100% of the time about
100% of the time. And I see that not being a GW player, but by watching the games being played and watching the creativity that gamers have as they min-max the system, and know that, okay, so GW, when I was there, had a bunch of people that were in it for the fluff, in it for the backstory, in it for the love of the whole world, and would play their games as such. When I went to the GW International Employee Championship in Nottingham, and I laid out my Dark Angels, and my Dark Angels brought to bear, it was when assault cannons first got rending, and I laid out more assault cannons than you could physically count in a list, and everybody at GW headquarters looked at me like I'm the bad guy, right? And that proved to me at the time, they did not understand how people play their game, because I min-maxed the crap out of the new Space Marine Codex to maximize murder of other Space Marines. So I bought rending assault cannons on everything that had it, right? And the only thing that didn't have assault cannons was my scout squad, because it was the only troop choice I could take. Okay, so, and if they'd had assault cannons as their heavy weapon, I'd have brought that too. But it proved the point that you guys talk about all the time, and that I've seen year over year over year, is that they don't understand. So when they come back with those comments, that worries me, because if they're building a rule set based on their microcosm of how they play test the game in-house, that's what's causing a lot of these big problems. That's what's causing the salt to flow. That's what's causing min-maxers to have their day and create OP Death Stars and whatever you want to call them, because they approach the game in a more timid sense than a competitive gamer who has no tie to this long history, meaning everything from their paycheck to, the fact that they live it all day, every day, because us as human beings outside of the realm of GW's influence love the game, but we got other crap we think about, right? And in that other crap, we come up with these creative ways to butcher their game, and they just aren't willing to see it, I don't think. So yeah, that comment worried me, because then it's like, oh, I'm thinking all these rules are going to be fresh and have some really cool points to bring up, and they're going to really change the game for a positive. Then they snark out with something like that, and I'm like, here we go again. You know?
Yeah, one thing I would. Oh, I'm sorry, Rob. Go ahead.
Oh well, I was just going to come bring us into the last couple of rules points.
One thing I would like to see that kind of solves is you should have to allocate all your fire before you start rolling it out, because like somebody brought up an example in the chat about like a 4-person las cannon squad, and you go, I'm going to fire this las cannon and then roll. Oh, that didn't do it. I'm going to now fire this las cannon. No, that didn't do it. You should have to announce, like, okay, my 4 las cannons are going to shoot at different targets. This guy's going to shoot at this. This guy's going to shoot at this. This guy's going to shoot at this. That guy's going to shoot at that. And then you roll it out. Because if you're waiting to see the result every single time, that's what will drag the game out. Yeah, if I had my way, I would make you declare your fire for your entire army before you actually resolved anything. Because that way, if you blew something up,
you've been preaching that for a while as a more realistic version of turn-based game.
Well, it'd be more tactical for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I Haspil, for the love of God, if that is in my mind, I didn't even think that was a scenario that they would be so liberal with that rule that, you know, you have to declare your target for however many models and not. If that does happen, then absolutely there's actually been no test play at all that has been happening. They just talked about something, or maybe there was test play, because I would have to think that the minds that be with Adepticon, the frontline game, and these guys are smart enough not to allow that this isn't, because now we can go back to the bolters and see how long this slows the game down. Like, oh, I'm just going to shoot my 2 bolter shots. That didn't get the leadership check that I wanted. I'm going to shoot 2 more at it. I'm going to shoot. And it sounds stupid, and it sounds like, oh, I wouldn't play against a guy who would do that. Why? Why would you not play against a guy who would play like that? That's the rules. You know what I mean? Like, so it kills me when some of the people are like, oh, I just wouldn't do it. I was like, well, wait a second. Like, that is, you're saying that you won't play against a guy who is playing by the rules because GW has allowed it? You know, so again, yes, I hope with everything inside of it that
Rob,
doesn't happen.
Bring us to our next point. I think you guys are totally right about that. We've even got comments where people are like, yep. I mean, like, literally, I didn't even think like that we were even talking that they would potentially entertain the idea of not doing pre-allocation. But Rob, please.
So the next thing up was they kind of teased the Meltagun profile. And it's very similar to what you guys predicted. It's a 12-inch range, assault 1, strength 8, AP -4, D6 damage. And if you're within half range, which would be, I guess, 6 inches at this point, you roll 2 dice when inflicting the damage and discard the lowest result. So I guess what's that average? Like 4, a solid 4.
You can count on 4 damage reliably, and but with the potential of doing more average damage than like a las cannon can, you know. Like,
what a powerful weapon. Would you guys agree that, like, in the game itself, from 12 inches, you know, not double tap Meltagun range, but like from 12 inches, a Meltagun and a las cannon does about the same thing. Like AP1 and AP2 isn't really a difference in 40K. You know,
actually, the strength 8 matters. Like in 40K, the strength 8, if you're not getting in the double damage range in current 40K, the strength 8 doesn't do a lot, because most things you're trying to interact with are like armor 12, and so like you need to pen it to make your AP. I mean, you need to pen it to make something matter.
Yeah, and guess what happens if you drop down and shoot 4 Meltaguns at a Wraith Knight? You need 4s to wound it.
Yeah,
like over the last little bit, we've seen Meltaguns not be as.
And you're saying that shit just wounds on a 3 unless it's you're never gonna wound a vehicle on a 2, because vehicles are never gonna be like vehicles are gonna be T6 and above. So las cannons are wounding vehicles on 3s. Meltaguns are wounding vehicles on 3s. Meltaguns are doing -4 rend.
Absolutely, like -4 rend. Yeah. That is huge.
But the cool thing is you're never going to one shot something for the most part. Like, so now I love it, because the big problem is that 40K is the sci-fi like IP, right? And AOS is the fantasy IP. But the way until we got free transports from Gladius, the way we played 40K was a bunch of guys running around the table on bikes and fucking walking because we had realized we had discarded vehicles for the most part for a long time in 6th and 7th edition. Wave Serpents were the exception, and now free vehicles were the exception. But for the most part, you got a lot of dudes walking around on the table right now. Jet bikes, dudes, and so it doesn't look very sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's like, and the reason is because you made us afraid to take dreadnoughts. You made us afraid to take vehicles because, like, that's AP1. Oh, literally rolls a 5. It's gone. Literally one shot me all day. So you don't take them. You don't take these cool things because they don't have play. But if you're telling me a vehicle could move, still shoot its guns, and you're telling me that like even a melta gun, literally a single melta gun could never stop my Rhino if my Rhino has more than 6 wounds. That is immediately. I'm bringing vehicles back to my games. You're going to see Predators because you're telling me a Predator has a twin-linked autocannon and 2 lats cannons now, and like now that's double the shots, and because the autocannon is 2 shots. Now you're saying it's 4 shots? What? You know what I mean? Like, it's literally a completely different game. It's tactical. Layer fire is going to matter, but I think the number one thing here is that the game is going to look like a sci-fi IP now.
No, yeah, and I think a lot of that, leading into the next weapon profile they kind of previewed or teased was the battle cannon, which we talked about on here too. It's basically a template. Now they're calling it like an explosion type weapon that works well against numerous infantry and large individual models. So that kind of gives you the mindset of what they're trying to do here. And this is where it's really cool and very forward thinking. I feel like it's 72-inch range like we've seen in the past, but its type is heavy D6. So it gets D6 shots, right? That's what's really cool. So imagine take away the blast out of your mind and now shooting D6 times.
What have they said about rapid fire just before you keep going on this? So they haven't discussed, right? Okay, just because I was just thinking rapid fire battle cannon on a Night Titan. That's the only reason I asked.
Ooh, that'll be really interesting.
I'm very curious because it's not going to be double because we already know that's twin linked is double shots.
Yep.
If rapid fire, you know what I mean? Like, so the rapid fire battle cannon doubled its shots because it was rapid fire. So and it was 72 inches. So as long as you're 36 inches, you got 2 shots. If they keep the same rule, if they keep the same concept, it's possible that this thing has 2d6 2d6 shots.
That is so amazing.
That could be brutal. So here's a profile at strength 8, neg 2 AP, and does D3 damage. Think about that for a minute.
And if it does get 2d6, so much higher average damage. So much higher average damage.
You ready for this? What is a mana core going to do? Because each mana core missile is D3 pie plates.
I just can't wait to see these data slates because I can't wait to see these data slates. I mean, they're going to be so much. Like I said, the average damage is going to matter so much more. The rate of play is going to increase. And not to mention, battle cannons don't really blow vehicles up. Because remember, we've learned that. Like,
no.
So the problem is that nobody takes these vehicles, right? But then when they do, you have weapons like the battle cannon that can interact with them, but rhinos can but a guy with a melta gun can one-shot them. You're like,
isn't that crazy? I'm sorry, Kenny. Like to drive that home, a ordnance weapon, a shell that is supposed to bring down buildings and stop vehicles. In the game of actual 40K, the best it can do, because it's not even AP1 unless the vehicle is open top. It can't even blow it up.
It can immobilize.
Best it can do is immobilize it. Right, so now you're saying I can get D6 shots. So let's go to the max. That's 6 shots that will wound on 3s, and each wound that goes through is D3. So it is a max out all D3s. You roll 3. That's 18 wounds. So it has the potential. It has the high enough ceiling with all the dice gods aligned to blow up a Land Raider if it has less than 18 or less than 18
or a Rhino. Right now a battle cannon cannot blow up a Rhino.
Impossible, no matter what the dice gods say.
Impossible.
No matter how many trip 6s you roll in a row, no matter how many whatever, physically impossible. But in the new Hammer, it is.
Which I love. I mean, I think this is amazing, especially if the rapid fire rules are double shots, half range, like they have always been historically. now you're saying an average of 7 hits, with 2 misses. Then you're saying, another additional 2 or 3. So you're saying, let's say you sneak 2, or say you sneak 3 or 4 D3s through, right? For an average of 8, 6 to 8 hull points. So like on an average roll of the dice, 6 to 8 hull points just converted right there. Like, I love that. Because I think these massive ordnance weapons, I think vehicles need to be viable, but I also think that when a unit of 4 Devastators or 4 Lascannons shoots at a Rhino, I think it needs to be all but certain it's removed. Like, that's what that unit does. And I like to see more element like that.
Yeah, it's called risk reward, right? I mean, we play these games, and any kind of tactical warfare should be a risk reward thing. Every unit you move should be risk versus reward in your own mind. Now, you may have a unit that's easy to move because the risk is minimal, but it should never be nil. And in the current version, it seems like there's a lot of nil risk. And that's what everybody builds towards. And so you just have who has the right, turn order and the objectives favoring them on their side of the battlefield to get their nil risk unit, moved over there. And that needs to go away. And it sounds like they're making a move to at least do that. So,
real quick, Rob, what was the other leaks that they did? They did an Imperial Guard leak and a Chaos leak.
Yeah, they did those.
So in the Indeptus Mechanicus, they did talk about rapid fire in that.
I do remember they did say something about that. I don't remember exactly what they said though.
I think that somebody in the chat says they said rapid fire 2 means you get 4 shots.
Oh, okay. I can't confirm that right off the bat, but I don't have those.
I just completely forgot there was another little mini leak about also Chaos. Do you remember what was in the Chaos one? How you not going
right off the top of my head, man?
How you knowing me and how long our friendship has been, like the 10 year of our relationship? How you not going to just remember that from me?
I guess I'm the worst, literally the worst.
No, dude, I've got it right here. All Chaos models have leadership 10 and are immune to battle shock. I'm just reading it. I just want you to know, right? It's what it's saying. Facts. This is GW. I'm actually messaging GW right now. They're telling me
and a caveat to that rapid fire rule is that's an order.
Oh, yep.
So the old order.
It was a tank order, I believe.
Yep.
I forget. But yeah, I mean, there is 2 more articles out there that we didn't cover. We're an hour and a half in right now. I don't know how much more information we could have gone over, but make sure you check those out. There's definitely, both of them are good read.
Would you say that there's articles on spikybits.com?
There is. We summarized them. They're over there.
With or without pictures?
There's probably pictures. However, none of them contain monkeys or cats.
Never mind. They're not good pictures.
They're probably not that good.
Okay.
They're mediocre at best. Oh my goodness. So, well, that's mostly semi-accurate picture of where we're at with 8th edition minus the chaos and Astra Militarum stuff. But like I said, all that information is out there. And by the time you hear this podcast, there'll be another day's worth of stuff out there. So, we're trying to stay on top of it as much as possible. And there's always going to be stuff flying around the internet at this point, so and it's just going to get even more and more convoluted with going over, weeks and weeks until the launch as well. So it's hard. It's a lot to stay on top of, but that's what makes it fun. I can't wait to get the book in my hands personally.
Lenina Huxley, you have been fined 1/2 credit for a sotto voce violation of the verbal morality statute.